Sylvie. Okay, fine. Willing to accept that.
Hey there, quirky people. We just can't seem to stop talking about the Loki series. Loki is the harbinger of chaos. He caused a lot of mischief and madness in his 1,000-year lifespan until now. And it is safe to say that at least one version of Loki has caused the next 10 years worth of chaos by killing He Who Remains.
See you soon.
But who knew that this chaos would actually fix some of the complications we've had for the last 2 years or so? Who knew that the Loki series could be such a big fixer? First of all, this show has fixed the little snag of top-notch MCU projects.
Your savior is here!
We didn't get an MCU project for more than 18 months. Then came WandaVision. It came in as a fresh breath of air, and it was followed by The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We recently got Black Widow as Phase 4's first film. While all 3 of these projects were good enough, they weren't among the top 10 MCU projects. In fact, Black Widow is probably the most inferior Phase 4 project till now. But Loki doesn't share this commonality. I think many of us would agree that it is the best Phase 4 project so far. I know that some of you might prefer WandaVision, but Loki just did a whole lot for the MCU. It sits among the best MCU projects of all time, at least for me.
Thank you, my friend.
It made future movies and shows like Spider-Man No Way Home, What If, Doctor Strange 2, and Ant-Man 3 possible.
Shit!
It has also given us minor setups for Young Avengers, Blade, and Secret Wars. But most importantly, it has solved the biggest plot hole we found at the end of Avengers Endgame. Endgame was such a blast, but what Captain America did at the end turned out to be very confusing. The Ancient One revealed that all the Infinity Stones must be returned to the moments they were taken from.
We can erase it, because once we're done with the stones, we can return each one to its own timeline at the moment it was taken. So, it never left.
Hulk understood the complexity of closing the branches and took that very seriously.
I'm counting on you, Bruce. We all are.
He tasked Captain America with returning all the stones to their respective years, and Cap supposedly did that. He pruned all the branches that the Avengers had created by taking the Infinity Stones away. That didn't do a lot of good ultimately because of what Sylvie did. But anyway, after that, he went back to 1951 and lived the rest of his life with Peggy Carter. Now, according to Endgame's time travel logic, this should have caused a Nexus event and created a new reality. But the directors of Endgame, Joe and Anthony Russo, confirmed that Steve Rogers created a new branched reality when he retired.
That's great.
But the writers Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely stated that Steve lived his life in the same sacred timeline of MCU. He did not create a new reality according to them.
Who actually believes this bunkum?
Well, we've done a few theories in the past trying to prove both of these verdicts right. It's easy to think that Cap would have created a new reality. Maybe he would have saved Bucky and prevented the assassination of people like President Kennedy and Howard Stark in this reality. He might have saved Isaiah Bradley from all the torture he suffered as well. And this timeline could have turned out very differently. But we also presented arguments that maybe Steve would have stayed in the shadows and done nothing to cause a Nexus event. It's just like how classic Loki hid on a planet all alone for several years without causing a Nexus event.
Landed on a remote planet and stayed there in isolation, in solitude, for a long, long time.
In the same way, Steve managed to stay in the same MCU reality as the writers suggested. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.'s 7th season also gave us a way to prove this analogy, but the MCU doesn't consider it to be canon. And Loki has proven that for sure. At the same time, it has also solved the Captain America issue we've had since Endgame came out. The beginning of Loki showed us that it takes almost no time to cause a Nexus event. And even something as minuscule as a person getting late for work could cause a Nexus event. So Cap had to have created a Nexus event just by staying back in time with Peggy. His situation was totally different from classic Loki. And that led us to this question. Why the TVA did not apprehend Steve Rogers for creating a Nexus event? We've done a video to answer this question in the past. Here we use the analogy of Endgame's writers as an answer. But the ending of Loki has given us a different answer now. And on top of that, Marvel has revealed a new timeline order for the MCU events. Apparently, the events of Loki have been placed directly after Endgame. That means Loki takes place before WandaVision, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Spider-Man Far From Home. With this revelation, Steve's time travel problem has been solved. Furthermore, we've got the answer for why the TVA did not prune the branch reality that had no Thanos, Gamora, and Nebula in it. During Endgame, Thanos from 2014 took his entire army to 2023. Both Thanos and Nebula died while Gamora was left somewhere in 2023. This would have definitely created a branch where Thanos didn't snap his fingers. And the TVA didn't necessarily give us an answer to why they didn't prune this alternate branch.
You're gonna tell me everything.
But now we know. You see, the TVA didn't exist in the time stream of the sacred timeline. And time moves differently in the TVA. Throughout the events of the Loki series, we saw Loki wearing the same outfit. His shirt literally couldn't have survived another episode.
Right.
By the time he reached the Void, he said that he didn't even know how long it had been since New York.
It's been a very, very, very trying past few days. Months? I don't even know how long it's been since New York. All I know is I got pruned.
Since time works differently in the TVA, we can't really know the answer for how long it had been since Loki was apprehended. But judging by his outfit, we could say that it hadn't been that long. If we consider the events of Loki in terms of how time runs in the sacred timeline, then it may have been a day or two at most.
Hey, quit it!
Yes, Loki was stuck in a time prison with Lady Sif for quite a while, but still, not a lot of linear time would have passed between New York and the Citadel of He Who Remains. And I'd like to believe that while Loki and Sylvie were speaking with He Who Remains, the first unprunable branch grew from the sacred timeline. We saw how He Who Remains had passed the threshold moment.
We just crossed the threshold.
And even before his death, a few branches had begun to grow. One of those branches could have been of that 2014 reality where Thanos wasn't present anymore. It wasn't being pruned while Loki and Sylvie were talking to He Who Remains. Maybe in this branch, Dormammu took over Earth, or Ego took over the entire universe. A branch prior to this could be the one where Steve Rogers started his life with Peggy Carter. As I mentioned a while ago, he could have done anything he wanted in this new branch. And since Sylvie killed He Who Remains, things with the TVA totally changed. A new variant of Kang took over and he began to run things differently. Several branches were created and the multiverse went into total madness. The TVA weren't being given the instructions to prune any branches. So Steve Rogers' new reality with Peggy Carter didn't get pruned either. He lived his life in this reality, and then returned to his original universe to pass on the shield to Sam Wilson. Now we don't know where Old Man Steve is right now. He could be dead, or he could be on the moon. But I'd certainly like to know about how Steve returned the Infinity Stones and what he did in his new timeline. It has been reported that Marvel is planning to bring Chris Evans back in one or two future MCU projects. So let's see how they do it. Meanwhile, it is quite certain that Loki is the most important project of Phase 4. Because of it, we're going to see multiple variants of Spider-Man in No Way Home. It is also possible that Wanda heard the cries of Billy and Tommy because of what happened in Loki. And now, let's just wait and see what else Sylvie has been responsible for creating. Loki is set to return in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and then he will return in the second season of his own show. So it will also be interesting to see how he tries to fix a multiverse full of madness. Are your doubts about those Steve Rogers and Thanos branches clear now? Let us know in the comments. Hit the like button and subscribe buttons if you enjoyed the video. And don't forget to check out some more fun videos on our channel. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!